Quick message for all the 2 people who watch this shit. You know that watermark that has appeared in the corner of my Bandicam footage? I thought that was a watermark put on by like Bandcamp, YouTube, or something to mark my footage for recording music videos. Turns out my brother put that there, and only today did I discover what it is. And it will be cropped out in future footage, just not this one, so enjoy this message. Okay, bye. I have heard many people dispute the horror of Voices of the Void. Where a game like SCP Containment Breach, The Bunker, or Iron Lung succeed in subtle horror, Voices of the Void does that too, but also chooses an equally subtle and slow method of invoking paranoia. In some aspects, it's not really a horror game at all. It's a job simulator game where you collect signals, manage your satellite array, report back to your bosses, and clean your base to pass time. Voices of the Void is an exceedingly slow game. It relies on you being completely engaged with its slow start before slowly unpeeling and unveiling its darker aspects. It takes about 9 in-game days before the game actually starts to subvert its simple concept, which can take hours to reach even on higher difficulties. Because of that, you must wonder, what type of soundtrack would a game about scanning through the cosmos have? The answer is a combination of dark ambient compositions with electronic noise, usually trying to invoke sounds of some kind of alien craft, and gentle ambient noise to fill the atmosphere. The morning theme begins similar to the old theme, with much more emphasis on a brighter sound. Despite sharing that sense of dread, it's a lot more blatant. The synths below the long drones invoke a sense of wonder and conflict. A subtle industrial noise plays below it. As it grows louder, a chime plays through the morning. You get the impression that a dangerous night is gone, but that underbelly of mystery remains. It doesn't feel good to see the sunrise. It just means you'll have to watch it again. Noon plays a piece similar to morning, but warmer and calmer. Of course, that same alien-inspired sound remains, but most of the focus is on a warmer ambience. It slowly enters the piece and becomes the main sound. During the noon in the game, very few events take place. It's a relaxing and gentle piece that invokes warmth, even with the quiet and suppressed sense of something out there. Something beyond your safe bubble that you search through the stars for. The evening piece is extremely eerie. Chimes and bells play on top of a series of... I don't know what these ding-dings are called. Svarim? Below it is a foreboding base which rises and becomes the centerpiece. The sun sets below the horizon, invoking the night to come. It's not far from the morning piece, however the emphasis is put on the rumbling engine and industrial synths which take it over, giving off a dreadful tone which puts a pit in my stomach. Especially with how much darker the game is at night. The sky may be there, but the land itself is pitch black. The orange sky transitioning to this doesn't necessarily help. The midnight theme is nearly demonic. No other theme matches that sense of dread and horror as the midnight theme. Look up into the cosmos, at all hundreds of millions of stars, galaxies, and exoplanets, and objects. Working in the dead of night, unable to sleep anymore as night drags on for infinity. A heinous, distorted string drags on through the piece. It's liminal and uncanny. You look out to the dark forest of the night. The bells begin with subtle noises playing below the track, playfully implying something out there. At the dead of night, the song is just... paranoia. You get the sense of being watched and stared at as you scan the skies for voices of unknown origins. Most of the time, you hear natural sounds of gargles, convection, and microwaves. Most of the time, you hear nothing. Sometimes, you hear something back. The original morning theme is frankly my favorite. It contains a long and foreboding drone which is essentially the melody, constantly bellowing over a series of synths which live beneath it. Originally, it was the first theme you heard, and what a fitting track to encapsulate that sense of impending doom. After your first night and your first signal, you head out into the morning of dawn with this strange song playing. Though it gives off a relief to not be in the dark, it still gives off the aura of just, well, dread. Something is out there and watching you. You just haven't seen it yet. By noon, a familiar comfort comes in place, working through the day and exploring the woods of your sight. The track shares that same sense, but much calmer and quieter. Unless you work through the night, the track is comforting as you run from satellite to satellite, performing maintenance, gathering hash codes, and running back to the cold base. The sun shines, and you can see it all, but not forever. Even at the various landmarks in the world, there's still a mystery here, one that not even your cameras can protect you from. The original evening track plays, usually still, and shares a similar sense to that of the modern version. As the sun sets below the horizon, that cosmic horror looms over. No longer is the safety of the day present. The light which gives you comfort fades. You are soaked in darkness and locked inside, as the horrors which you cannot see, which playfully run around in the infinity of space, becomes present. You can gaze up at the stars and see nothing. You hallucinate and see objects which man was not meant to see. At night, you hear gentle pings which replicate that of your own technology. The sonar pings over a subtle sound of the midnight, implying something listening back, invoking that same mood, but far more effective as you stare into the awful black night, which persists forever. No matter how hard you try to work and ignore that foreboding base, you still have moments of downtime, looking to the telescope and looking out into your solar system, looking out your window to see if anything watches you. You can feel yourself being watched, but you can't tell if something is watching you back. There's also this one, I'll tell you later. It's almost hilarious how you feel moving around during the day, with warm music and the ability to see versus midnight where you drive slowly trying not to run anything that may hurt you. During the day, I do all sorts of Olympic tricks, loop-de-loops, and crash my vehicle as if it had feelings. During the night, I just sit there. When I do drive, I'm careful despite not really caring about the health of my poor vehicle, or myself really. Even driving around is strange. Your vehicle rattles, rings, and vibrates. At the same time, the game likes to play random sounds just to fuck with you. Even at the dead of night, you wake up to hear somebody walking around the base, or worse, walking inside the base. I would be remiss if I spoke about the soundtrack without addressing the signals. For example,
but first, let me take a selfie.
when you're not doing the easiest math problems in the world, see? Easy. You spend the vast majority of your time gathering signals for your superiors. Most of those signals are very simple. You start out with a blotch of harsh industrial noise. You slowly filter out the noise, eagerly anticipating what you found. You may get a few mumbles, some space whales, and some ear rape. However, every now and then you get something extremely strange. I don't think anything unnerves me more than downloading an unknown signal or object and expecting some space wind, only to instead get a face looking back at me. It doesn't even have to be the sound itself. You could get a message in the style of the three-body problem just telling you not to look, because just the act of listening tells of your presence. You expect silence and instead receive something worse. Even with the simplicity of listening to the wind of the woods during the noon, it can be oddly pleasant. Listening to the muted crickets of the night, the gentle bird songs of the day, and even the gargling waters of the pond. The worst is when it's dead silent, and you hear nothing. It's not like the game is that serious half the time either. Neither was I taking it seriously half the time.
Two trucks having sex.
There's a series of plush cats you can find throughout the map. The main antagonists of the game are cloaked aliens which turn out to be anime cat girls. All of the events can happen at 3 AM, which just feels stupid. You'd think the tension would loosen more, but it never does, because these are merely distractions to hide the morbid aspects of the game. There's evidence everywhere of your former coworkers around the map, even one in your own base beneath the boxes. There's a signal of a lost cosmonaut screaming as he floats through an endless void. Sometimes, beneath one of the bridges, you can see a shadow of one of your coworkers hanging under the bridge. There's a log of one coworker slowly losing his mind, eventually disappearing before leaving you one last message. These are from multiple playthroughs by multiple people. There are plenty of rare and strange events that seem to only happen once or twice. There may even be events that no one has documented or even seen. Though my recordings never really picked up anything that shocking, there were a lot of strange mysteries I encountered. The mannequins. A signal whose spectrum showed King Ghidorah. Strange massive logs through the site which seem to have been manipulated. An entire forest fenced off. The skull I found miles away from where it came from. The cave. Why sometimes the game would find signals from my home planet, sending me either a classical music piece . Look into the telescope and zoom into a star that is not of your own system. After a minute, it will fall into darkness and move away into the night. During a playthrough, I refrained from sleeping to see what happened. My character drifted like a Joy-Con, then he fainted. I have no idea what he was trying to look at. On radar, a point moved back and forth before slowly moving to my camera. A strange wisp came into view, which then shut off my camera and disappeared. I checked in front of my base, and out of a tree a glowing blue light fell and crashed. During a trip into the woods, I was walking before a growl, and something ran off. One night, I noticed the sunset was oddly red. Once I awoke, the night sky was blood red and continued to be well into the morning. During the time of night, I was just freaking out. I could not stop looking at it. I even went out, just to see if anything would happen, slowly turning the orange sunrise to a pleasant magenta, which turned into the most beautiful purple I've seen in the sky. The next day, despite the fear, by midnight, I had never wished for a sight as unsettling as that, seeing the pitch black midnight as my radar went off again and again. The morning after the darkest midnight, a thunderstorm came. I slept outside, as you could see here, and upon waking up, I ventured out into the storm. The sound of rain hitting the ground was relaxing. Though dark and cloudy, I found the darkened sky oddly comforting. I enjoyed doing my task before the rain went away, not that far off from how I felt once the red sky had vanished. During my first playthrough of the game, I swear to God this happened. I was doing my job before my radar went off. I ran over to my radar and saw a group of points on the radar slowly moving my way. Went outside thinking I would see some sort of air raid or UFOs or war jets. Instead, I only saw a group of pink stars. Strange, large, alien jellyfish descending into the earth. As I got closer, I remembered some kind of gentle, ambient piece playing as they explored the earth, even lowering down and touching the river water. After minutes of them exploring the site, they moved up into the sky and left the atmosphere, never to return. I have played this game 4 times, and I have never seen them again. Despite experiencing a rampaging kaiju, tourists from another world, strange crashed ships, disturbing signals, and even the end of the world. Still, the event I thought about was those jellyfish. If I were to say this, I find Voices of the Void very ambient. I can't recommend this game for event scouting. Though there are story plots, the actual events are extremely rare. Even the interesting signals can be rare. I recorded 4 different sessions, paired with a few extra days not recording, and I barely found a few golden moments. Despite that, the game is a great escape, filled with calm ambience that allows you to relax to live in its world. The loud thunderstorms, the quiet crickets, the wind of the night. When the soundtrack itself is eerie and assuring, the ambience of the outside can be quite wonderful. And even then, I find myself constantly thinking about its soundtrack and how effective it is.